There we are. Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to my Wednesday live stream. Today, I will be drawing some pumpkins, but there's a lot to discuss. I have been traveling with Josh for the past 4 weeks. We're finally back after a bunch of conventions, and I'm excited to have a chat with you guys and kind of catch you up on some news in the art world, what's going on with Drawtober. There's just a lot to talk about. So I think I'm just going to jump into it pretty much right away. But if you guys have any comments or questions during this, feel free to add to the discussion. Just put @vonnart before your comment or question, and I will see it because I have my comment section right in front of me here. So as always, where are you guys watching from? I always like doing shout outs and seeing where around the world you guys are. And I'm going to be drawing some pumpkins. Before that, hello Tijal, hello. It was funny, I ran into Loesch. She came to my booth at Lightbox, and she was telling me that a plant struck you in the eye, or a branch or something, and it was a very bizarre story, so I hope you're doing okay, Tijal. And Tijal is one of our wonderful mods on our Discord, and I'll be talking more about that later. And yeah, Lightbox was super wonderful. I'll get more into that later, though. Hello, that art guy. It's Antonio's from Massachusetts. Hello. Or is that Maryland or Massachusetts? You're gonna have to let me know. Felix, hello. I'll be working my last Drawtober, and I only have until the 28th, so no time for extra pumpkins. Oh no, don't worry. This is not a follow along one. This is more of a. I'm gonna be drawing and chatting with you guys because I feel like there's a lot to catch up on, and I also need to finish my Drawtober. Within the next 5 days, obviously. But there's a lot happening. We're going to a witch's ball on Saturday to celebrate Samhain, or however it's pronounced. And that's really exciting. I've never been to a witch's ball before, so that should be a good time. And then also trick-or-treating is on Monday next week, so we got to get all of our outdoor decorations up, and we're doing an adult trick-or-treating as well this year. So yeah, there's a lot to do, so I got to make sure I get this done sooner than later. I guess really quick, too, my illustration, here, I'll zoom out here. So essentially, it's rows of pumpkins with this pumpkin, I don't know if it's a girl or a boy, not that it matters, but there's a character down here, a pumpkin head character, and they're going to be holding a long match with a light on it. And the idea here is that all of the pumpkins are going to be carved jack-o'-lanterns, and the idea is that this character is lighting all of the pumpkins, and the prompt is called Candlelight Coven. So I like the idea of you create your own coven, or I was going to draw a very sad-looking character, and the idea of they feel so alone that they have to create other visually like-minded people, or these pumpkins, they have to light them so that they don't feel alone anymore. But I was like, I don't want to go tragic for the last prompt or too much sad. And then I started to really think about how I can make this a little more thoughtful. So here's my idea. Drawtober has been going for 6 years. So I have 6 different rows. In the last 3 years, we've been making it so that there are 6 prompts per year. So each pumpkin is going to represent a different prompt, and we are in the 6th year, and this is the 6th prompt. So I'm going to leave this pumpkin uncarved to kind of represent that the illustration itself is the carved pumpkin. It's like the final prompt. And then the Drawtober pumpkin logo will be the head of the character in the center, kind of being this playful this playful take on, we've been creating all these pumpkins over the years by doing Drawtober, and this Candlelit Coven is, for me personally, it's creating all these monsters that I've been drawing over all these years. So that's kind of what this piece visually represents for me, and I'm pretty excited to get it done. But like I said, I'm super busy the next few days, so I really need to get it done sooner than later. So that's why I'm going to be doing this on the stream today. Okay, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see the pumpkins a little better. I even bought some pumpkins at the store this morning just so I have some better reference, because reference always helps with organic nature-based things. And you see more discrepancies and little imperfections when you have a real reference in front of you. So I got some pumpkins. I'm pretty excited to draw some pumpkins today, and we're just gonna go to it. And then really quick, let me catch up on the comments here. Yeah, the last prompt for Drawtober is Coven, so it is like a multiple undertone of characters or creatures or whatever. So this one's definitely gonna be the hardest, and that's why there's an extra day. Digital, I couldn't see out of my eye for a week. It hurt and looked horribly swollen, but it's all better now. Oh, I'm so sorry, Digital. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're doing better now. And also, Loesch very much commented on how great of a mod you are for her Discord, so well done. Hello, Barbara. Hello, hello. Saween. Is that really how it's pronounced? Saween. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. And plus, I should be Googling this before I try to pronounce anything, before I say it out loud. Hello, Ruin Wonderland. Hello, hello. Hi, Jamie. Josh is doing all of the orders downstairs. He will come up, though, and say hi. Vashka Karen Arts, which pencil is best for drawing? I use General Kimberly's right now, but I will say at Lightbox, I got these Blackwings and Blackwing Pearl specifically. Now, the thing I like about them is they literally feel like butter on paper. They're so smooth. But I found the downside is they are a little more textured and rough in their delivery or like their execution, which can be great. But when I'm doing more tight drawings or more detail, these pencils aren't the best because they're also not easy to erase. So I find I like working with them like kind of at the start of a drawing. I mean, I guess I could use it for now. You know what? I'm going to use this for the start of a drawing so you can kind of see why it's beneficial in areas and how it can be detrimental. I really like it can get so dark really quickly, but, or you know what? No, I'm not going to start with it. I'm going to stick with my 3H. I find that I can get a lot more of a gradient in value dispersion with lighter pencils, so the H side on the scale. And then I like to go back in near the end with my darker pencils, so the HB, 2B, 4B, to punch those values further and create more of the contrast, but near the end. Okay, so what do we have to talk about? There is a lot to catch up on. So I guess I'll start at New York Comic Con, which was at the beginning of the month. Or no, you know what? I'm going to start at, there was a convention in Milwaukee that I did the weekend before New York called, I don't know if I can even say it on stream. It's basically Witchcraft, but a B instead of a W. And it was in downtown Milwaukee. It was a one-day convention. And I only really wanted to do it to make some extra money so that I could buy some other witchy things there at the actual con. And it ended up being this amazing experience where I've never felt so much synergy with other people in the same room at a con ever, like ever. All the kids were wearing witch costumes and they were trick-or-treating at everyone's booth. And I had 2 full bags of candy and I thought that would be enough, but I ran out in like 2 hours. So the remaining 4 hours I had to like sadly tell all the kids that came in my booth, like, I'm so sorry I don't have any more candy. But it was awesome because all the adults were dressed up in like these kind of witchy outfits, or they definitely had more of a either pagan look or just more magical. I loved it. It was literally my vibe so hard. And the money wise, I was expecting to make like $200 and I did like almost 3,000, which is outrageous for a single day con in Milwaukee for 6 hours. And the booth itself was only $100. So I heard that this is starting to pick up steam and it's now traveling to other states. So if there's one in your area, I would highly recommend it. I had such a blast with it. Also, these jack-o'-lanterns, if any of you guys want to suggest what kind of a face to draw, I will most likely draw because I got to draw, what is it, like 36 of them? Yeah, it's a lot. You know what, I just realized too, the focus is constantly changing when I, oops. Because yeah, if I put my hand in, it focuses on my hand, not the paper. Hey Josh,
Yeah.
how do I lock focus on your phone?
How to lock focus.
You have our tech guy.
What if you click this? No.
I'll keep kind of drawing while you're doing that.
That?
Did that do it?
No.
No. I know. How do I get that from auto to manual?
You think it would just be clicking it?
I'm telling you, I think nowadays apps think they're becoming more user-friendly when in reality they're becoming less user-friendly.
Hello, everyone. Well, I mean, I don't know. If it was the normal camera, but I don't know how this app works.
I thought before it was something with like pressing. This is the focus, but how do I make it lock? See, why does it keep doing that? I mean, it wouldn't be a vonnart stream without some tech issue. Right?
I have no idea.
Oh, great. Not even the tech guy knows.
I know. Well, that's what I think. You just click auto and it should just turn to manual.
Why would that not fix it? Well, you guys might have to endure a little bit of an awkward stream today. You might zoom in and out. I'll try my best to be on top of it. We'll see, though. Yeah, it's like if my hand gets too much, see how it focuses on my hand then?
Yeah, it keeps going back and forth.
I guess I can try to keep my hand more off screen. Hold on. I guess I can try this more at an angle. That might work.
Maybe.
Right? I
I'll
don't
try
know.
to look up too and I'll come back with,
All right.
an update.
Thank you. But anyways, yeah, that was that con. That was great. And then literally we had a prep the next day to leave on Tuesday, because this was on a Sunday, for New York Comic Con. And New York, I've always had an interesting history with. For the longest time, it was our best show of the year. So every time we got in, I get really excited. This year was a little different. It actually, not only was it not my best con of the year, it was like number 3 or 4. And anime cons have been beating out a lot of these comic cons nowadays. So it's strange how when I started conventions, the comic cons were definitely the ones that you would want to get into. Those were like the big ones. Those were the big name ones. And if you got into them, you could expect to do pretty well. In 2022, especially after post-COVID times, or whatever you want to call this time, I would definitely say anime cons, surprisingly, are better in terms of financial gain. It doesn't mean Comic Cons are dead, but I would say per the investment and what you get in return as a net profit, most of my friends would agree that anime cons have been giving way more of a pull. So what does that mean for the future? I don't know. But as of right now, I know Josh and I are dropping a lot of cons next year so we can focus more on being home. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but just know as of right now, I'm planning to get back into YouTube far more than I am now, with doing a lot more pre-recorded content. And I'm very excited about that, because I used to do this for CG Cookie a lot. I would do tutorials. I would do like weekly exercise tutorials, and then I would have to record video, audio tutorials at least like once a month. And I love CG Cookie. I loved what it gave me, but I definitely felt a little bit, I wouldn't call it burnout necessarily, but I definitely felt like unmotivated or like uninspired to do more video content. And being at Lightbox this past weekend kind of changed my perception of things. But before I talk about that, I just want to say for New York, it still was good as a return, but the hours are grueling. They're like 10-hour days where you have to sit behind a booth for 10 hours. It's hard to get to the bathroom. You have a 6-foot spot, so it's kind of cramped, and it's very dense. It's very much like shoulder to shoulder in a lot of areas in New York Comic Con. Even though it's a super big venue, you know, there's like 100,000 plus people at the show, so it's just difficult to maneuver. How do you figure it out?
It says that should be it.
See, that's what I thought too.
Yeah. It doesn't switch off. It must be an app issue then. I was on their actual website.
Oh, really?
That's what it said to do.
Well, thank you for checking. No, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Love you all. Mwah. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, right. So the at New York, Josh and I definitely decided that I think we're gonna drop New York Comic Con for next year and instead do Anime NYC. It's in November and it will probably do similar numbers, to be honest. And that way we still get the New York experience, because I do like New York. But we don't have to deal with the 4-day con of 10 hours a day and doing just as well as a 3-day con at an anime show with almost, you know, half the hours. Yeah. So after New York Comic Con, we had Lightbox, which is a California con. So it's a West Coast con, and it primarily focuses on animation. And I still don't exactly know how I got in, but I am very grateful because I loved it. I really, 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 really enjoyed it. And it was like a great con to kind of tail end this crazy schedule that Josh and I have been on the last however many months. And it's been since like mid-July that we've been at a con almost every weekend. It's too much. And this kind of goes into why I want to focus on YouTube more next year, because I don't need to be making the amount of money that I am, considering the life that me and Josh have together in Wisconsin. And I don't think chasing money or like excess should be a goal of mine, at least where I'm in life right now. And I would much rather be home drawing with the cats, focusing on online sales or YouTube content, or focusing more on my Patreon. And when I do a con, especially back-to-back-to-back cons, everything gets thrown off in my routine, and I feel like I'm a very routine person by nature. So when everything's just thrown off, it really throws me into a loop where coming back and like resituating myself can be just a bit more difficult. I have to admit. I want to think that I'm super good at coming back from a con and just jumping back into my routine, but I feel like it takes me a few days to find that routine again, because when I'm on the road so much, I feel like I'm learning new things that I want to do, and through that process, I feel like I want to change a lot. Anyways, I'm going to be doing a lot more YouTube stuff in the future, and I think a lot of it came down to meeting Proco and some of the other YouTube artists. There are a couple that I genuinely do not enjoy their company that much. Some of them I really do. Like I do like Proco, but I've always had like a weird hunch about some of these artists that I didn't like them, and I couldn't pinpoint why. And then being at the weekend, I'm not going to name names, but I found out some things that like confirmed that I want to be a voice in the YouTube community again, or at least in like tutorial and video content again, because some of the leaders right now are just not my favorite people. One of them I found out didn't even pay their assistant for working the entire weekend, even though they make a lot of money, we'll just say. And to not pay someone, like another human being, for helping you run a booth for an entire weekend when you're making a really good amount of money is just like deplorable to me. It really gets under my skin. And plus, I don't like their work that much either. So it's like a double-edged sword of, no matter which way you cut it and slice it, it doesn't work for me. And I think so much of the art world nowadays has become about the artist rather than the art or art making or helping other artists. And it's this very like self-indulgent circle jerk of artists that I feel like aren't caring about what they're creating anymore, they're caring about the results or the financial gain or the social gain. And my first video that I'm going to be recording is I'm going to be talking about the current state of the art world. I know if you guys have come to my streams a lot, I've talked about this loosely before, but I really am nervous with the state of the art world right now. I think with AI and NFTs from last year, and there was a lot of drama in 2020, and then it was like NFTs last year, now this year it's AI art. It's really, really fractured the art community, and I'm seeing it happen live. And at conventions, younger artists, I can just sense how discouraged they are of like getting into the art world, and they're afraid that their jobs are going to be taken. What's the point? Everything's been done before, and it's very sad because this is the next generation of artists, and they don't even feel like they have a place in the market, and I think it's so sad. I want to help, hopefully curve that. Obviously, I'm just one person, I'm just one voice, but hopefully we can start to build this art community back up into caring what we're doing again and putting thought into what we're making and have it be a personal reflection of not only our taste and our upbringing, but things that are cool and that we find fun. So that's kind of the goal of what I want to do with YouTube. We'll see what comes of it, but as of right now, that's the plan. So sorry, long tangents on what's happening, but I felt it necessary to kind of bring it up so that you guys know, because starting January 1st of next year, I won't be doing these weekly Wednesday live streams anymore. I'll still do them from time to time, but I'm going to dedicate my Wednesdays now to creating pre-recorded content. And then maybe like once a month I'll do a live stream, but I really want to have a day dedicated to just recording, and either it being like an art tutorial, like a process video, or talking about art industry stuff, how to make money as an artist, how to be financially independent. I feel like that's a big one for a lot of artists. And I really feel like I could help with that. And I want to give back to the community that has given me so much over the years. So yeah. Okay. Anyways, that was my rant. I promise I won't go on many this stream as I'm drawing like silly, goofy pumpkins. I'm trying to like have a super serious discussion about YouTube artists, but let's see here. Oh, you guys are giving me ideas for the pumpkins too. Oh yeah, Felix, you should definitely go to a con. Your stuff is so good. You will definitely do well. And just know, I know you said you want to make more fan arty things in your comment, but you really don't need to. Most of my friends don't have fan art, and we do well. And I don't want the incentive to think I have to do fan art to make money. You can make fan art if it like actually gives you joy to make it, but don't feel forced to make it to be financially stable or independent. Tishel says, what's the prompt of the pumpkin you're drawing at the moment? So these prompts are supposed to be more like not literal, because the first 3 years of doing Drawtober, there weren't 6 prompts, there were 31, or at least the first 2 years. So these are more just like you're creating monsters, you're creating these pumpkins. Hello everyone. So Tijel, you did kind of catch though, for the last 3 years, I'm going to do probably a visual wink to the actual prompts and what they were, but we're going to keep that more of a secret. At least for the top 3 rows, because there were, or at least these 2 for sure, there were 31, so it wouldn't really make sense being represented by 6 pumpkins. That one art guy says, have you ever thought of going into cover art? Oh gosh, it jumped. I'm creating a bunch of class horror book designs for my job portfolio, starting with Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yes, I think I'm going to take just a couple freelance jobs next year. I just think it would be kind of fun. I don't know why, I just have this slight urge to do some of them. A couple companies have already reached out to me, and I might be doing. Actually, I don't even think I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm sure it would be NDA, but just know I have a few freelance projects that seem kind of fun to do, and as soon as I'm allowed to tell you guys what they are, I'll let you know. But book covers, yes, I definitely would love to do like alternative um, film or like poster designs. I think that would be really fun. Or even if it was just like marketing for things that I really enjoy. So like example, if Final Fantasy 16 wanted me to do an alternative cover for, even if it was just like a promotion post on Instagram, like I would love to do it. Uh, just because it's like a one illustration that I can pour a lot of my time and energy into, rather than it being like 50 smaller concepts that may all get scrapped, you know. But that's just a dream. Elena says, I'm really happy to hear you're making the decision to cut back on cons. It is selfish, but I can never go to cons you are at. I'm happy to get more content from you that I can watch. Yeah, me and Josh have already talked about, we're only going to do one a month, which even for some people still sounds a little crazy, but I feel like, how do I explain this? I like doing cons. So for me, I'm not trying to like cut out cons because I hate them. It's just they're very time consuming and they're very taxing. And if I'm going to be doing a con, I want it to be worth it. But then in between the cons, I really just want to be home. I really want to just enjoy being with the cats, being with Josh, being outside, and just kind of enjoying life more. I've been having a lot of these thoughts lately too of, I want to do all these things, but if I look at things realistically, I'm not setting enough time for me to actually do them. And I think that's an issue that I've always overlooked, because you have that kind of sensibility of, oh, I'll just put it on the back burner. I'll get to it when I get to it. Or if I just put like 30 minutes to it a day, then I'll be fine. But I've been noticing with a lot of my projects, like my tarot project, my 5-foot drawing that's upstairs, my eventual return to doing swordplay, giving a half hour to an hour a day to these larger projects are just not going to get them snowballing the way that I want them to. So I think that's another reason I want to be home more next year too, is I really want to kind of not steamroll through, but I really want to put more dedicated time per day on the tarot deck, because I need that done first. I need that done so that some of our other dreams can then start aligning. So one of them is we really want to work the Ren Fair in Wisconsin, and we want to buy our own little nook, our own little shop, and then we'll like decorate it and paint it and make it look really cool inside. But I feel like it wouldn't make sense to, because I think the deposit for a house for Ren Fair for 2 months is 10 grand. And for us to, obviously, I think we'll be fine with the return, because I've been told from other people that have done this, you make really good sales, like comparable to a convention. So you should, make your money back and then some. But in my mind, why not have a product that I feel like for sure would sell at a Ren Fair, like a tarot deck first, before I, drop 10 grand on a Renaissance Fair house that, I mean, who knows? Like, what if it actually does bomb and I just wasted 10 grand? Like, I try never to take anything for granted and never count my chickens before they hatch. So I would want some kind of a security, and I feel like tarot would give me that feeling of you'll be fine. If tarot decks don't do well at a Renaissance Fair, I don't think they'll do well anywhere. Thankfully, though, I have a lot of faith that they will do well there. Oops. Also, when doing the inside cuts of the pumpkin, I'm doing the inside lines so that it gives the dimension, it gives the illusion of it being round. But for the nose, which is usually in the front, it wouldn't have that much because you're looking at it straight forward. Oh, hello, Cat. Kitty Hug Fitness is in the chat. She is my best friend, and she just got married this past Saturday. Hello, Cat. And well, thank you. Don't worry, Elena. I'll still be creating a lot of content, and yeah, the Wednesday streams may be ending, but I'm not saying forever. Maybe after I get a bunch of content out, I'll feel more comfortable doing the weekly streams again. But I think just for a while, I want to dedicate Wednesday to creating content so that the other 4 days of the work week, I can really kind of zone in on the tarot deck. I'm making a new book next year, my next art book, so I want to give that a lot of time. I think the Wednesday live streams, I love them, but they do I'm jumbling over my words now because they do take a lot more time than just the 2 hours I'm on the stream. I have to do the marketing for, the thumbnail of it. I have to push it live everywhere. I have to make sure my audio and video work, even though there's always something wrong anyways during the stream. And then I have to kind of prepare myself mentally for talking for 2 hours straight. This may surprise some of you, but I'm actually not that talkative outside of streams or when I'm not around people. I'm actually very quiet. I like to keep to myself. And these streams, I kind of have to ramp up my energy just so I can talk with you guys, which I love. Like I said, I love it. But it's definitely something where I have to kind of mentally prepare for it. So yeah, but don't worry. I'm going to create so much in terms of like video content. You'll see me talking and you'll still be able to engage with me more often. Especially if I'm home more, I'll be able to discuss more and have conversations with you guys, whether it's in the comments or on the videos themselves. So yeah, pretty excited about that. Esper says, Tim, thank you so much for all that you do for the art community. Your streams have actually motivated me to find my love for drawing again. Bahaha. That's amazing. Like I said, I don't want to just drop the streams entirely. And who knows, maybe I'll change my mind in December and I'll just keep doing these. It's just like a love for being able to talk to you guys once a week, because I do love how small the YouTube community is compared to like my Instagram or Facebook, where I feel like sometimes it's a little overwhelming. And like I said, I'm naturally more of a quiet person. So I think I get overwhelmed by a bunch of people DMing me all the time. And I think this YouTube community has always been really nice because I feel it's more intimate and it's, smaller. So who knows? Maybe I'll actually stick with it because of you guys. You guys make it worth it. Thank you. I am Fumi says, my friend tells me to make fan art because it sells better. Everyone's going to have a different experience with what they sell, but I can tell you most of my friends only sell original work, and we usually make about double what I hear fan artists make. That's not all fan artists, because then there's a small pocket of fan artists that make like double what we do. And I'm not talking like small numbers. I'm talking, and this doesn't leave our little YouTube community, even though I'm posting this publicly, but some of them have made $80,000 on a weekend at a convention selling mostly fan art. And these are at anime shows, I should point out. And a lot of it is just anime merch or fan art that is, it's simplistic, it's wide-reaching, it's... Okay, you know what? I'm going to get into a rant about art in general. Hold on. This is kind of what I wanted my first video to be about, and I'll still talk about that in that video, but I think there's a problem with just trying to create things for the sole purpose of having them sell to other people. I think we're taking out our own inclusion in the work and what makes us artists out of it. I think there's a fine line between what is an artist and what is a producer. And I think, especially with AI art, I think we're just minimalizing what artists contribute to this, this craft that we all love. And there's a personal input that each of us put into it, and that's why it's special, is because we're creating bridges to help connect us with other people through this visual language that we can't express in words. And by taking those bridges out and being like, oh, you like Pikachu, I like Pikachu, so here's Pikachu. I think it's fine if you genuinely love that, but I don't think someone should be like, to make money, you have to draw Pikachu. I feel like that is not the narrative that should be spoken and should be making the rounds, because even though I've known a fan artist that make I've only known like 3 that do that well at a show ever in my entire career of doing conventions. Most fan artists that I know make about half of what the original artists make at a shows, And there'll be like a handful, just like a handful of fan artists that do just as well or a little better than the original artist. But I'm telling you, the bell curve on this is kind of crazy. Um, and I don't want anyone to feel they have to do fan art to make money. So I want you to get that out of your head. I make more than, like, I don't want to say the actual number, but just know original artists do well for themselves. And even though I've had so many people tell me in my early days, like, you should do fan art, and I did, it wasn't until I started only showing original work at cons that I doubled my sales. So just remember that. And maybe tell your friend that that's not everyone's lived experience. It could be some, but I don't think that should be the narrative that you have to do fan art to make money. Anyways, let's see here. Felix says, I would definitely only do fan art of stuff I would do anyways, like Studio Ghibli, Witch Hat, or Elden Ring. Yes, if you are going to do fan art, do things that you actually enjoy, because I think it'll show in your work that you love what you're drawing, and people will connect that. So those are the bridges that you will connect with people. But imagine if you drew something like Captain America or something that you hated, and then people are like talking to you about how much they love Captain America at a show. There's not only a disconnect, it feels dishonest, and it feels weird to me. I don't understand why anyone would want to put themselves in that position, because then it feels like it's not even art anymore. It legit feels like work at that point. So just my 2 cents. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't done fan art in a few years, Elena, I mean, there's no need to, but if you have that weird urge, like I'm reading Berserk right now and I'm plowing through it, I definitely think I will do a Berserk fan art just because I've been enjoying it so much, and I think it would be really fun to do a fan art of it. But I decided I'm going to kind of let my Patreon decide what fan art I'm going to do. I love the idea of, in December, of doing like a bracket style. The Patreon backers get to vote every week. They, like, certain ones get eliminated until there's just 2. I'm going to let them vote on it. But I definitely will do, put like, I think 16 different potential fan arts that I personally would love to do. And then I'll let my Patreon people narrow it down to which one they would want. And then I think I'm going to send a print of whatever fan art one everyone decides on to everyone. And then one special Patreon will get like the secret original drawing. And it's not even the print, it's the actual original. I think that'd be kind of fun to do in December. So if you're my Patreon backer, just know that that is what I'm looking to do in those months. Oh, Jamie, congratulations on your wedding. Thank you. But it was actually an engagement. We didn't get married yet. We're still gonna probably do it in like 5 years. In about 3 years. But if we can save enough correctly, probably 2 years. So it just kind of depends on how much the actual price tag will be. Let's see here. Alvin, hello, Lurk. What's up? Lurk away. Lena says, well, I hope I'll be able to get back on your Patreon too, then, to see even more content. I miss being a Patreon member. Soon should be able to return to that. It's been kind of great to see the Patreon backers have more discussion with one another. And I'm definitely going to be putting more of my time into giving it back to them every week, because not only are they giving some great feedback and input, but they're posting their own work and they're kind of giving each other feedback. And it's just been really beautiful to watch. And I want to curate more of that. And I think with Patreon backers, like, they're literally paying me to not only, survive outside of cons, but I want to give back in a way that's more than just sharing drawings. I think sharing my time and my thoughts with like more personalized, commenting and looking at their work that way, I think is like another benefit that I could provide more of on Patreon if I wasn't at cons as much. And I think that's another goal of mine starting in 2023. Actually, Cats, it's funny that you're even on the stream, because you're going to be coming over in a couple hours. So So I will see you not only online, but in person. Oscar. Hello, Oscar. Hey, not sure how many Wednesday streams I'll be able to attend this season. I have twice as many indoor volleyball practice instead of beach volley, and they are all in the evening. I'll always watch after. Well, I did mention in the beginning I may be lessening how many of these Wednesday streams I do, so in favor of doing pre-recorded content, and then doing like once a month, or I might even do once a month public, and then another once a month just for Patreon backers, and have more of like a personalized, maybe not even like a drawing tutorial or like stream as much, but maybe it's just like a sit and chat with me for an hour, and we can literally chat about whatever. And maybe that's, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of the ideas are forming, and I'm trying to figure out what I want this to look like for next year. So after Drawtober's over, I'm really going to sit down and try to schedule out what I want my year to look like next year, especially with this in mind. Let's see here. Felix says, if I ever draw Captain America, you know that I have sold out. Okay, something I can say is I was approached by Marvel at Lightbox, and I'm not the biggest Marvel fan. I'm sorry if anyone in the chat really likes Marvel movies, but I'm really not the biggest fan of them. But they were talking about doing a potential cover for a Marvel comic, and I remember thinking like I don't think I would want to do this because I don't think I like Marvel. But then the trickster jester in me was like, how funny would that be though if I did one just so I could like tell all my friends I'm a Marvel artist, and it'd be like this juxtaposition of, you know, who I am and what I enjoy doing. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about doing the Marvel cover. We'll see. But there's just some part of me that likes the comedy aspect that I could bring to it. And maybe the cover itself, I could have fun with it. Whether that's like making references to my own art within the cover. Like imagine if I had little Dirk kids hidden on a Marvel cover. I think that would be really funny. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional on that one, but we'll see. We'll see if they even come back and actually want to work with me or not. Especially, could you imagine if like one of the representatives was watching the stream or watching on YouTube afterwards and being like, okay, we're dropping this artist. No, not this one. No. Let's see here. That one art guy says, I mean, me doing these book covers could be interesting fan art. Haha. Hell, at the end, I'm doing a cover for my favorite show, Penny Dreadful, which you could totally check out. I love Penny Dreadful. Literally, you're doing like a cool, fun dream project. We're like doing a Halloween-y kind of spooky cover would be like a dream of mine. One of my friends was able to work on the Hellraiser reboot, and I was so bummed that they didn't ask me to help out in any way. I would have loved to do like an alternative poster cover, but apparently they were already pretty booked as is. But I would love to do something like that. Or if any of you guys played Twist Metal Black growing up, I know this is kind of showing my age, but I loved the concepts and the look of it, and they're making a TV series next year that'll come out, and I would love, like, I almost want to reach out to them and be like, do you need any like poster designs? Like, is there something I can contribute? I just want to give back, and I think it would be really fun to work on a project with a team of artists that also love this project. So we'll see. I think I'm gonna try reaching out more next year. I feel like I've been very self-contained. I'm like, I don't want to work for anyone. And I think leaving my full-time job at CG Cookie, I loved it, but I think it was like almost out of respect. I don't want to work out, or I don't want to work for anyone because CG Cookie was so good to me. But now I'm at that point where I'm like, you know what? I think CG Cookie would be okay if I got work from other people, especially for how long it's been. So that's kind of my goal. So now that I've been working on pumpkins this whole time, let me see if it'll refocus. Oh, geez. Now it's not focusing at all. There we go. I've done the top 3 rows of just like light outlining, and the bottom 3, obviously, I'll do at a later date. But I kind of want to show how I render pumpkins. So I'm going to zoom in. Let's see if I can do this without it. Hopefully it won't zoom out. Oh, there we go. Actually, that's pretty good. So I'll probably render out a couple of these until our time runs out, and then you can kind of see my process for rendering pumpkins. And hold on, I'm gonna grab the pumpkin that I bought, put it more in front of me. Whew. Okay, so here, reference. Here it is. I'm gonna put this down. So like I said, having good reference on hand is a blessing for artists. Whoa. Move this aside so it doesn't cast a huge shadow. Okay. So if there's anything you want to talk about for the next 2 hours, because otherwise I'm just going to keep rambling, feel free to ask any comment or question, and I will do my best to answer it. Let's see here. Oh, you were talking about Kat. Yes. Congrats to Kat for getting married. Congrats, congrats. Oh, hello, Lauren Brown. Lauren is another artist you guys should check out. She is a phenomenal artist, and she also runs the con circuit quite frequently, as well as having a full-time job. And I think she's also a good example of being able to do conventions and have a full-time job. And at times it will be very stressful, but if you can have fun with it and like make it work for you, it's definitely worth it in the long run. And plus, it's like a nice side hustle. You know, like if the full-time job ever, I know some of my friends, they lost their full-time jobs, but they were able to fall back on doing cons because they already kind of established working at them and knowing what to do, how to make money at them. And yeah, over time, they didn't even need their full-time job anymore. Let's see here. Can I draw Tom Cruise in an Iron Man suit? That would be cool. Probably not. But if I did draw Tom Cruise, I would probably draw either the 80s film version Legend Tom Cruise, or I would do the Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut when he entered the masked ball. That was pretty great. Lauren says, do it, just do what I say. I will say that they are an easy client to work for depending on who you get. Very amicable, clear feedback. That's what I also feel like what would happen with working for Marvel is they would be really good at giving feedback on what they want, what they need, having very clear guidelines. I've heard just people have nightmare clients in the past where they want like a bunch of revisions and all this other stuff, but I feel like Marvel would, I would assume, be good at setting out very clear standards and guidelines before we started drawing anything on how many revisions they can ask for, what they are looking for in general. So yeah. I think I will say yes if it comes to it, just so I could have that on my resume, and then I could like hide fun little things in the drawing. And then anyone that would know, you know. We'll see. Barbara says, I have mostly avoided doing fan art. It's not that I'm against it, but I feel like it's such a confusing gray area about copyright, ownership, etc. It varies from country to country. Some countries like Japan are totally for it and they almost support it. I've seen some artists that did fan art of a manga would then get hired by that manga studio because they were so impressed with it. So it's kind of like the opposite reaction that sometimes America has, where a lot of America feels this entitlement, or not entitlement, but like ownership, and you can't create anything that I create or without some kind of a royalty or fee. And there's something to be said about that too. And I'm not, like I said, I'm probably one of the last people to talk about copyright stuff because I don't even work in the industry. But I know in other countries, they're very strict about copyright. And if you draw anything that is, you know, fan art, you better be ready to get met with cease and desist, especially at conventions. America, it really doesn't happen that often at all, actually. If anything, it's like free marketing for a lot of these bigger companies. But I think a lot of the medium-sized companies, so like small to medium, that have copyright on something, those are the ones you got to be a little more leery of doing fan art, because they're either going to be super for it and like all about seeing artists create fan art of it and then even selling it at cons, or they're going to like double down on making sure that you never sell fan art of it. The same as, well, the music industry is different. I won't even get into that, but it is a gray area for sure. And I have some friends that are against doing fan art, not because of the legal implication, but for the ethical reasoning of it's not something that is mine. I'm taking something that's not mine and making a profit from it. That's a discussion that I think I'm not suited to have. I think other artists that could get into a good debate about like if I had if I maybe on a future YouTube video, if I brought a fan artist versus someone that's super against fan art and just have them have a good, respectable debate with one another, I'd be interested to hear both sides of that story for sure. Sigil, if you get to do Spider-Man, I'll die. We'll see. I don't think I get to pick, to be honest. I was thinking if I had to pick any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe characters, and if I couldn't do a villain, like if I had to do a hero, I would much rather do a villain. But if I had to do a hero, I think the Hulk, only because it's kind of Frankenstein's monster, basically. So I could kind of Halloween it up and play into that a bit more. I don't think I would want to do Iron Man, if I was honest. Nothing to do with the character. I'm just like thinking of the aesthetics. It would be a lot of hard surface, very symmetrical. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do Iron Man. Maybe Thor. Maybe. Oh, hi, Casper. I'm trying to think of what other Marvel characters there are. I haven't seen one in so long. Captain America, it'd be fine. But I mean, I would much rather do a villain. Give me a villain cover art. I'm sure I would have fun with that. Anyways, what else we got here? Oh, Kitty, yes, we get to see you very soon. Tigel says Mystique. Does Marvel own X-Men? Why do I feel so out of it right now? Yes, right? If X-Men is thrown into the mix, way different. I would love to do an X-Men cover. Specifically, Nightcrawler would be like my number one. Mystique would probably be number two. God, there's so many X-Men though. It'd be hard to narrow it down. I'd almost be okay with any of them. Storm would be fun. Toad, or whatever the Toad guy is. I think his name's Toad, right? Any of them would be fun to do. It's basically like the Halloween of superhero characters because literally it's any power you can think of, at least for the writers that they can think of. And then for the artists, I would have so much more fun drawing a Nightcrawler cover than a Iron Man one. I'm just like thinking of the dynamics you can play with. Well, I guess, you know what, I keep talking myself into a corner because anything that you could get, it comes down to the artist and making it fun to create for them. So like even if I got Iron Man, I would make it fun somehow. But if I had to say what I would prefer, then definitely I would prefer an X-Men character. That one art guy says, off topic, something I'm grateful for in today's art community is the emphasis on self-care. The idea of suffering for your art is being thrown into the solvent rag bin and set on fire. You know, it's true, yes, and I think taking care of yourself is important. What's something that I've realized recently is if you are taking care of yourself, that's one thing. And like I said, I'm never gonna argue against that. But something that I have noticed in my own life is when you become comfortable enough, I feel like it's very easy to lean into laziness and kind of lean into putting things off because there is no demand for it as much. Like when you're a little more financially stable and maybe you have like a few cons lined up in the future and then you know, okay, I'll probably do this at this con, I'll do this amount at this con. And you can kind of slack off more. I watched a video 2 days ago and it talked about how, now, like I said, take this with a grain of salt. This isn't for sure fact for anyone to like live and die by, but it's something that helped me at least. And they talked about how in our lives we need a certain amount of pleasure, um, but in the long run we feel pain from that. But a short amount of pain can feel a lot of pleasure in the long run. Let me explain. So they were saying how, uh, and this was all on how to wake up better in the morning. I was watching videos on how to feel more um, awake in your morning routine. And one of the things they talked about was when you wake up, either take a cold shower or splash cold water on your face, because when you sleep, your body temperature drops a degree or two. And when you put cold water and you kind of shock your system, you're not making your body colder, you're actually telling your body to heat up. And in that way, it'll warm your internal organs and your internal cycle, and you'll get up and moving quicker. And they were talking about how it's a good example of a short pain can create a normal amount of pleasure in the long run. But a better example they were saying is for a lot of us, short-term pleasures like looking on social media, eating junk food, looking at, we'll say, explicit content on a hub on the internet, we'll say, it's a short amount of pleasure, and your dopamine will spike a little bit, but then shortly after, it'll drop and it'll just stay down. But they're saying if you do something that is a little painful, so imagine, this doesn't mean like actual like pain, but like working out in the morning. Yeah, it might be a little painful while you do it, but it will release a slow amount of dopamine throughout the day so that you'll have a longer, higher stride of dopamine throughout your day. And I've been doing a lot of research on different chemicals in your brain and how they work. And a lot of the times we're searching for those dopamine spikes, or just dopamine in general to make us feel good, but we're searching for them in the wrong areas. And sometimes self-care, not that it's a bad thing, but make sure you're doing things that will actually have long-term benefits, where if you are just like eating junk food or doing things that are not productive, it can actually be detrimental. Where for me, I realized why I am generally in a good mood is because I'm drawing a lot, and I think a lot of it is I'm feeling the effects of feeling good about what I'm doing because I'm seeing not only the reaction online, but I feel better about myself because I'm putting effort and work into creating something, and then when I'm finished, I have like a physical product that I can share with people. And in that sharing it with other people, it feels really good. It feels very inspired for me, and I'm realizing it's actually a dopamine kick, and that's why it looks like I'm working all the time. But you know how the saying goes: if you love what you do, you don't really feel like you're working that much. And I'm kind of hitting that. I mean, there will be times where, don't get me wrong, it feels like work, and then rendering, like I'm sure by the time I'm rendering the 27th pumpkin on this chart, I'm sure I'm gonna be like, I just want to be done with this. But that's part of the process too. You gotta love the process, not just the results. But anyways, I know this is kind of long-winded, but the whole point of it was self-care, super important, but also make sure that when you're making decisions about your day-to-day tasks that you're doing, make sure that you're not just picking something because it's easy, because sometimes that will actually have a detrimental effect, because if it becomes habitual, you won't actually be as productive, which I do think leads to long-term depression when you don't feel like you have any sense of worth, nothing you do matters. Especially for artists, I think we're a little more sensitive to these triggers, and I think if you constantly tell yourself that you're not good enough, or you're not building a portfolio of work that you can be proud of, I think it's very difficult, especially in today's social media market where you're comparing constantly to other people. And like I said, I really want to make a video about this current state of the art world, because there is just so much that I think is going in a bad direction. And I think especially with focusing more on the artist rather than the art, and only making art that will receive a good response, whether it's through financial gain or numerical gain on social media, it's very hard to not have that be a goal. And I feel like a lot of my generation, so the artists who are in their 30s and up, we got super lucky because we didn't have to deal with social media being shoved down our throat when we were 14, 15 years old, and feeling like the only way we have purpose in the art world is if we have a following on social media. That would have driven me a little nuts, because I think being a little bit of a competitive person, I would have really leaned into that idea more than I should have. And I'm sure my self-worth would be even more intertwined with the number on my social media account than it really should be. Anyway, sorry, that was a long ramble, but I feel like when I don't have Josh as my moderator, it's hard for me to concentrate on drawing and talking about things that I would consider very important topics in the community. And that's why like I said, I want to do more pre-recorded content, because then I can shave out all the repeating myself and the stuff that doesn't matter as much, and like condense it down to like the core of what I'm trying to get to. Because I do have a tendency to ramble a bit. Let's see here. Lauren says, "Oh, thanks, Tim. And it's true. It was nice to be able to fall back on cons when a full-time job fell through. It's not a life for everyone, though. It's a lot of energy." It is a lot of energy. I hope other artists can understand that doing cons is not like this always a fun, oh, I'm going to set up my booth and like I get to talk to people and sell my art for a weekend. Sometimes it is grueling. Sometimes it'll be like an hour, hour and a half where you may have one conversation, but then the rest of the time you're just standing there. And you're thinking, sometimes your thoughts, especially at the beginning of a con, if you don't make a sale in the first hours, or the first hour two, with some of my friends have told me to, your thoughts start spiraling into, I'm never going to make money as an artist. I made the wrong choice. This is the end of my career. I'll never do as well as I used to. It's funny how much of a mind game conventions can be as well, that no one prepares you for. Felix, yes, Riot does pay very well. And I have friends that have worked for Riot and they have had good experiences. And they definitely take care of their artists financially. Thank you, Mario. He says your shading and rendering is awesome. It's my favorite part of drawing, honestly. Goodbye, Jamie. Take care. Yeah, okay, X-Men is Marvel. Then yes, that would be great. Lauren says, this is good advice. Slogging through the pain of properly setting up digital files pays off so well in the long run. Layer comps, naming layers, organization, yum. I need to embody this philosophy with everything in my life. Instant gratification was a mistake. Man, if that is not like, that literally could be one of the titles of my videos that I want to make. I feel like I have fallen so victim to that in, I would say like 2019 and 2020. Or no, 2020 and 2021. Because 2020 weirdly was like my best year for social media, and I think it's because I didn't have cons, so I was at home all the time. And then 2021, my Instagram got suspended. I was doing my tarot illustrations, and I got suspended for promoting suicide for posting my Hanged Man illustration, which is outrageous considering the Hanged Man's about looking at something from a new perspective. He's literally hanging from his foot. So the fact that I got flagged for promoting suicide is just egregious. And then dealing with the Facebook and Meta support system, it's been a nightmare. Even yesterday, we got another chance to appeal. So I appealed to them. I was like, I literally would love to know what exactly caused my suspension, blah, blah, blah. I wrote like 3 paragraphs just asking, like begging basically, like what did I do wrong? And they didn't send any response back. They just sent a denied. I'm still suspended on Instagram, and that's where they left it. Okay, I think for this stream, I'm going to try to render these 3 pumpkins here. So I'm going to start with this one. And sometimes I like to create an under texture to then detail on top of. So I'll do more strokes where I'm lifting the pencil, because often when I render, it's like a smooth circle motion, and that's how I create the value gradients, if you want to call them that. But yes. Casper says that's pretty much why we like spicy foods. Our body is trying to ease the pain, like nerve signals with releasing etorf. Oh gosh, I can't even pronounce it. Endorphins. Body's own morphine. Like, is how you spelled it different than endorphins? Oh, never mind. You put an asterisk down below. Oh yeah, there it is. Yes. Um, there is a part of me that feels like I need a certain level of pain in my life to uh, stay stable. I know how much of a masochist that sounds, but I feel like it's very easy for me to be like, you know what, I'm not gonna draw today. I'm just gonna go enjoy life because that's what it's all about. But then I end up just like watching Netflix for the day, and then I feel horrible at the end of it, being like, I'm never doing that again. There's definitely a balance, and I'm learning that going outside is something that I want to do every day, and like not drawing is something that I don't want to do every day consistently. Like I can't just sit down at my desk and only do that every day and feel like that is what my life um, purpose is just to do that. I want to experience life and still be an artist. But I feel like social media and things nowadays tell us because of work hustle culture that you have to be, working nonstop all the time. I think it's good to be working a little bit every day and uh, pushing yourself on some level. That doesn't mean you have to go so hard that you're like depressed, but definitely enough where you feel satisfied with what you're doing in your career outside of just living your life. Anyways, I'm just going to start rambling again if I keep talking about that. Let's see here. Felix says, other than the familiar, I love the process on my Drawtober pieces this year. Just listening to audiobooks and podcasts, enjoying creative stupid stuff. I do sometimes hit that 80% mark and feel slightly underwhelmed, but don't feel like making major changes anymore. But usually it's totally worth it to push through to make it the best you can manage. That way you don't have regrets. Yes. I would say for me, trying to do the conventions and Drawtober at the same time was grueling. And I had this whole idea of doing the storybook where I was going to do it all digitally, and that's why I could do it on the road, blah, blah, blah. Ended up dropping it literally 2 days before October started. And I had to do every Drawtober prompt kind of off the cuff and kind of how it's, I guess, meant to be done, where it's like you draw it during the prompt's window. And even with this one, I literally just started drawing it last night because I had nothing planned for Candlelight Coven. And I'm learning a lot about how when there's a time pressure on it, I used to be much better with just shooting off the cuff. But nowadays, I try to have what I create mean something more. And I'm learning that it takes a little more time sometimes to have that result. Oh, hi, Casper. Hi. Do you need something, sir? Okay, just wanted some attention for a second. So I was like super disappointed with my Finished Familiar one because it just lacked thought in my mind. It just looked like I was using my drawing ability to just pump something out because I needed to pump something out, but it didn't look like I had a lot of care or thought into it. And I was trying to put care and thought, but like nothing was sticking, and I only had 1 day to do that drawing. And when you're having a bad day, but your deadline forces you to finish something, I was having one of those days, and that's the only one of this month that I like really cringe at looking at the results, because I'm like, I just feel like I could have done something so much better. And that's where sometimes more of like the pre-planning and just prepping for something that has a long-term deadline. That's why I don't like pushing things to the last minute. I was definitely one of those kids in school that I didn't wait till the night before to finish something. I would like start it early, so that if I have any other good ideas throughout, that deadline duration, I can add them to the finished drawing. So if there's anything that Drawtober taught me this year, and maybe it taught you, Felix, how to enjoy the process more, for me, it's that I want to have my works not just be pretty pictures. And I think especially after being at Lightbox, it like confirmed what type of artist I don't want to be. and it like reinforced how art to me is not just some trivial thing that I do because I like drawing pictures. Art is such a gateway into another person's psyche, and it really is looking for like technical aspects, creative cleverness, and then seeing someone's like personal stamp on their art. It's so satisfying when you see an artist really come into their own and have a style that is recognizable. Uh, and I love that. But the problem is sometimes when an artist gets to that point, they lose sight of that original aspect of art making, of like that creative discovery and like searching to better yourself, because you hit a point where you're good enough. And a person can kind of coast on just being good enough for as long as they need to. And I've been noticing that, I guess I can only really tell in hindsight with my own work, the points where I was just relying on being good enough versus like really pushing myself to create something that I would consider uh, challenging. And that's something that I really want to make sure I never lose moving forward with my art career, is never get so complacent with my drawing that I lose sight of enjoying the process of art making, which is so much fun. And if you guys get into that zone where you're really loving what you're drawing and time seems to just move super fast and you are just in this creative um, mindset, that feeling to me is like heaven. It's so good. And when I lose sight of that, and when I'm so focused on the results of what I'm creating and like focusing on, oh, I hope this does well on Twitter, I feel like I've already lost what made art and drawing special to me, because I'm focusing so much on the wrong aspects of art, art in general, and what makes art for me special. Obviously, art for everyone will be something different, but for me, that the process is so magical that if I lose sight of that's why I do art in to begin with, I think I lose sight of the greater picture, you know. Uh, so yeah. Anyways, once again, Tim Ramble Day. Where was it? Lauren says, "What? I'm so sorry to hear about your Instagram. That's so silly." Yeah, it's been since last June, so it's been like a year and almost a half, and it has been awful trying to deal with their support. Like worst support I've ever encountered ever. I've had support that has been horrible with like house payments and or not payments, doing work on the house, where like we had a leak in our front window and we still kind of do, for over a year, and they keep saying, oh, we'll bring someone out, and they never do. And it's constantly like having to remind them and be like, hey, come on, like the window's still leaking, and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, the guy was supposed to come yesterday, blah blah. Anyways, at least they are being direct in conversation with us, because Facebook, I don't know if any of you have tried Facebook support. You're going to be talking to machines and machines only, and everything's automated. So good luck trying to fix whatever problem you have, because if you don't know what the actual problem is, they are not going to tell you, because the computer, at least in my experience, cannot understand what the actual problem is. It's just checking something on the back end, and if there's a blip in your record, they'll see the blip and just deny you again. There's no like direct, hey, this is why your Instagram has been banned. We've never gotten that experience. So I haven't had the best relationship with Instagram this past year because of that. Thankfully, I kind of found a love for posting on Twitter, which still seems to value static images. It's like the last frontier for artists to not have to feel the push to, have to do video content like Instagram and TikTok and all these other ones. Not that that's bad, it's just for a lot of artists like myself, I think the static image is kind of the joy of like making just a still image. Video content was never like my passion, so having to include that in the process is annoying, but it's necessary for a lot of artists nowadays. Uh, Especially if you want to, make a splash on TikTok or stay current with Instagram with Reels. Not that you have to, but I've definitely noticed that that seems to be where the future is heading for those platforms. And to keep up, I have to now record drawing pumpkins. Actually, I'll probably do that with my own phone on these. I should do it right now, actually. Isn't that crazy how I have to now include like recording my process while streaming through another platform? Crazy times we live in as an artist, let me tell you. And then when I record myself drawing, I'll try to take 30 to 40 clips of drawing different aspects of the drawing. And that way, when I stitch it together, you have more to pull from, and then you can kind of eradicate what you didn't feel worked as well. Also, what's kind of funny is I have to figure out how I want to draw each of these pumpkins because I probably want the lighting to be a little consistent, Even though my lighting tends to veer on fantastical rather than super realistic, I kind of want it to still read consistent through all the pumpkins. So I think because they're going to be lit from the inside, I'm going to have them be a bit darker. At least that seems right to me right now. You know what I'll do? Maybe I'll do 2 pumpkins where I shade them slightly differently. And then I'll decide from these 2 what to do for the rest of them. So maybe on this one I'll keep it a little lighter in the value and then see if I like that better. Because there is a small % chance that I actually may color this digitally. And if I do that, I probably will have the light source coming from inside of the pumpkins, so the value around the pumpkins will be darker. So we'll see. We'll see how I curve this here. Lauren says, imagine starting anything early. I remember what that life must be like. Yeah. I literally, on the car ride, I went to the grocery store this morning. I was like, imagine if I had the brain that I have now, but if I was back in like my, childhood body and going to school as like a second grader again. But you have like the maturity and the mental capability of understanding as you do now. Like, what if I were to get into the art world, but I was only in second grade, but I had all this knowledge, what would I do? And how would that play out? Yeah, it's very weird when you think about that, and how much you could probably get ahead in the industry. But I do feel bad for any artist starting out nowadays. I can't even imagine the pressure. So if you are a younger artist, and that doesn't necessarily mean an age, you could be, starting out when you're 14, you could be starting out when you're 40. I feel for you guys. I literally don't know how that must feel, of like that insurmountable pressure, honestly. Let's see here. Felix says, I feel like my last 5 pieces or so finally have a cohesive style, but I'm not totally there yet. Still figuring out shape design. I definitely think I can see your personal stamp on your work now, Felix. When I'm looking for my Drawtober post to reshare, yours definitely stands out amongst the crowd in terms of recognizable style. What if I did? Maybe I'll do a gradient on all the pumpkins from dark to light. Do I like that? Let me see, guys. Let me see. Because when working with grayscale, you really have to play with contrast. Otherwise, your piece will just read like noise, which obviously is not the goal. And I think for a lot of the shelves, I think I was going to include like the pumpkin carving remains. So seeing like pumpkin seeds. Because whoever this character is down here cutting all the pumpkins, they're kind of messy. And plus, I like that little added detail throughout that, you know, they were just cut open. You know what? I'm going to try doing one more pumpkin in this style to see if I like it better than this one, because then they'll all carry that consistency. Oh, let's hear. Hello, Foxface. How are you doing? Casper says, I'm new to your community, so you might have talked about this previously, but I just haven't picked it up. So I wanted to know if you ever do commissions like portraits of people. I used to do quite often, and a lot of pet portraits, surprisingly. I've drawn a lot of cats and dogs that a lot of you guys probably have never seen me post because I don't post them that often. And I drew a lot of birds, a lot of birds. That was for a beer company. But yeah, I don't do commissions anymore just because I'm so tied up with doing a tarot deck, trying to do my own drawings, and then doing conventions around the country. And honestly, okay, I'm going to try to explain this so it doesn't just sound arrogant, because in my early years of doing art, I was a DeviantArt artist, and I would do commissions for $15, $30, $50, and a lot of the times they were for like a character drawing. It would either be in a pixel style, full color. I remember I did this elaborate full color World of Warcraft fan art for someone, and I think I charged $75. So like in your early years, I feel like we undercharge because we undervalue ourselves, and just getting work and making money from being able to draw is like such a pipe dream at that age that getting anything feels like success. But then as I got older, I got my full-time job, and I wasn't taking commissions on as much, but I started doing conventions. And through conventions, I started making money through, you know, at that time, a lot of fan art. And it took a little while for me to introduce original art. Not that it matters if you do original or fan art, but I was making money on my own art, even though my prints were only, I think they were $12 at the time. They were pretty cheap. And I, you know, over the years have built that number up because I found more worth in myself. I was seeing a better response to it and the work that I was creating. And then I started doing commissions while doing conventions and my full-time job. And those commissions were more like $200 to $500. So that's when I really made the jump of like putting more value into my time and effort. But that was for about 2-3 years, I would say. But then after those 2-3 years, I was making much more than I was before at conventions. So just doing any kind of commission just didn't make sense because the time and effort I could be putting into a print, and that print alone could make tenfold what that commission would be worth up front. Because a lot of the times when you do commissions, you're not going to like sell someone's pet portrait at a convention and have that do well. But if I was able to draw like another celestial white mage that a lot of people could connect with visually, that would sell much better at a convention, and that has a lot of return, almost residual income, because if you put that print online, you could make money online for sales as well as at cons. So I guess the short answer to that question is I don't do commissions anymore because they're not worth it for me. But not because I'm like, oh, I'm, you know, too big shot of an artist, blah, blah. It's just that the time and effort that I have now is so limited that I want to make sure I'm putting it forth towards projects that I truly want to do, because making money is no longer my goal. And I mean, on some level, it will always be, because, you know, financial security is a real thing, especially with inflation, and who knows what the coming years, and especially with the war overseas. We don't know what the future is going to look like and what it holds for us. But as of right now, Josh and I have a very humble life, I would say. We live in a good little house in Wisconsin where things are very cheap, and I love it. I wouldn't change it. And I can then dedicate myself to like a tarot project over 5 years and not have to worry about making commission money as much. Anyways, sorry about that long answer to that one. Hello, Dame Esley. Yes, there's still another, 35 more minutes of the stream here. So if you have any comments or questions, I would ask it now because I tend to ramble and I want to make sure that I answer any question you might have. Actually, I do think I like the gradient going from top to bottom. I feel like that would be a consistent look to all of them. So I'm going to erase this top half here. And now when I'm drawing, I also have to think about how could this be a fun reel. And I try not to have the reel dictate what I create, but it definitely stops me in my track of when to record. And I know, okay, I'll just record probably doing like a snippet of maybe like 12 of the pumpkins and then do like a pull out and then reveal the final image. So that's something that, I don't know, that's how I manage working in this new age of video content being the dominating force while still feeling like I have control over what I create. If any of you guys have any suggestions, I mean, I would love to hear it. I think as a community, we should share ideas that help each other. I'm a huge believer in when the tide rises, all ships float higher. And the metaphor idea is that if we help one another, if as artists we help each other grow, we all do better, whether it's financial or just mental stability, whatever that might be. I don't think like hoarding or keeping secrets from one another is the way to go. I'm very much the opposite. And that's why if people ask me privately about things like money or numbers, I try to be very honest and I'll share numbers and stuff because I know that helped me a lot when I was younger. I had a couple artists that were, I guess, bigger names in the industry, and they really were honest with me and very authentic and very transparent about what they did, how they did it. And I learned so much from that I try now to give back to other artists. But I also learned over the years that not every artist can handle hearing even like numbers, because it might be actually more discouraging than encouraging, which is obviously not the goal. I would hope that finding out that an artist makes like 20,000 at a convention, oh hello Casper, would be more inspiring of like that's possible. Like as artists, we can literally make $20,000 in a weekend. That's crazy. I want every artist to feel like if they are passionate about what they do, that they can also be financially stable. Like that to me is like the ultimate goal. Anyways, let's see here. Foxface says, I've totally given up on social media. It's just so inconsistent and unrewarding at this point. I've had my account since I was in high school with no growth. I just post for fun. Yeah, I can't even like argue that. Like even though I think social media is a great asset to marketing whenever you have either a Kickstarter or like a big sale or whatever it might be, to grow with the algorithm and the constantly changing algorithm is a job in itself. I think that's why having other art friends is literally crucial, because if I didn't have my art friends, I don't know where I would be. So I'm not the most technologically savvy, we'll say, and a lot of them help me so much. I always give credit to, if you know Devin L. Kurtz, she is a wonderful, wonderful human being. I love her so much. I went to a retreat with her and a couple other of our art friends in California, and she has been doing a really good job at navigating the current landscape of social media. And I asked her, I was like, hey, can you help me understand this better, specifically with Twitter, because I don't know what to do with Twitter. And then she looked at mine and she said, Tim, you're doing it all wrong. Literally, the way that you're doing Twitter is really bad. She was really honest with me. She's like, it's really bad. She's like, to start off, you don't use hashtags. No one uses hashtags on Twitter anymore unless it's like portfolio day or something. And usually you only use like 1 or 2 words as a quote for your drawing and then maybe an emoji. Keep it short, keep it very simple, easy to digest. And literally, when I got home from California, I tried it on 2 of my images, and both of them, when I posted, gained over 10,000 likes. And I never get that on Twitter, like never. So I realized it wasn't that my art wasn't good, it was that I wasn't posting it in the way that favors the current algorithm on Twitter. And it was this super bittersweet feeling of bitter because I'm like, I have been doing this wrong this whole time because I wasn't aware of the algorithm, even though I was still creating the same art. But then it was sweet because it was like, okay, I've learned that Twitter's more like a lottery and it's more of how many reshares you can get. And you're trying to get someone that has more of a following than you do to reshare your image for you then in turn to gain followers. It's a very weird landscape, but it's so much better than, oh, thank you, Risika Joshi, for subscribing. It's so much better than Instagram for organic growth right now because on Instagram, you kind of have to rely on hashtags and just being fed in the, what's that called? The search, which there's a million plus other people trying to also be found on that search on that day. But Twitter, it's literally like you're a lottery. So I feel like there's such a disconnect now that I feel in terms of I don't feel bad if one of my images bombs because I just didn't win the lottery that day. That's okay. Like some of my images in Drawtober, a lot of them only get like 200 to 500 likes, which is definitely below my average. But then I posted, what was it, one in, I think it was in September, and it got like 30,000 likes. And in that 30,000, I gained about 1,500. Oh, you know what? I'll look at this after. I gained like 1,500 followers, and I realized, you know what? Don't put a lot of effort and care into if you do well on Twitter. Just know it's a lottery, and then when you do well on it, thank the Twitter gods, but not for real. But just be thankful that your stuff was seen in the right way. But if it did bomb, just know there's nothing that you could have done about it if you put it in the best light that you could. The other things about Twitter, though, just so you guys know, I was taught try to post between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Time, and this is more for Americans. I don't know if this works overseas as well. Maybe it does. But 5 to 7 p.m. Central Time, try to post on like 2 or 3 days in between. So like a Monday, Thursday, or like a Tuesday, Thursday, or if you just want to do it once a week, try posting on Wednesday. And then after you do your first post, do a bump an hour later. And a bump is anything that adds value to the original post. So oftentimes like a work in progress shot, you can talk about the meaning of the piece, whatever it is that adds value to the original post. And if that first bump does well, and after 24 hours of your original posting, it's like really gaining momentum, do one more bump 24 hours later that also adds value to it. And that's the way to use Twitter. Literally, how would I have known that unless if I was actively like sitting on Twitter or doing a lot of research? I personally, I would never have known. So thankfully, because of Devin, I now know this and I was able to share it with my other friends. And all of us have seen growth on Twitter because of this one individual. So what I'm trying to get to is make sure you have friends that are in this career with you because they will be invaluable. They are more helpful than any, I think, drawing technique you can learn because you can even learn techniques from your friends. But man, having just a group of people that can give you valuable information because they're also in this field and they're also clawing and struggling to make ends meet and they feel that struggle with you. I think that camaraderie is just crucial for artists nowadays. So I hope everyone finds that. I hope we can kind of create a little bit of that community, especially on YouTube once I start making more videos and having these discussions. So anyways, let's see here. I'm sorry though, Foxface, you feel that way. And I totally understand because if I was in your shoes, I could be like, why do I want to give this effort as well? But maybe try Twitter. been kind of like my saving grace this past year in terms of having fun with social media again, because for a while social media felt like this giant burden of work that I dreaded. Um, but now Twitter is like this fun, like I get to pull the lever, and if I win, awesome. If I don't win, whatever. That is how it should feel to post your art on social media. Is this like lack of care if it does well or not? Um, Obviously, you would hope it does well, but if it doesn't ruin my day like it used to last year. Last year was definitely a down year for me in terms of recognizing how much of my self worth was still entangled in social media. That one art guy says, I've thought about going back to the past, but knowing everything I know now with the skills that I have and how much better I could be. Yeah, that would be crazy. Especially if I had all this information when I was in high school. I'd be very curious to see where I'd be today. Elena says, I just feel defeated because I'm definitely not a starting artist. I've been trying to grow an audience for over 10 years, 6 years on Instagram, and have gotten nowhere. But I get told, oh, I feel bad for you. You're just starting out when I see my 500 followers. Like, no, don't count me as a beginner. I've been at this struggle for a decade. We are not the same. Like, if it makes sense that being taken at face value as a beginner / new to the scene, which makes it feel like those 6 years are nothing because you're seen as a beginner from the numbers. 100%. I have some friends that they're actually doing very well at conventions. Like they're making some of them. One of them, I'll say, Pui Che, and it's Pui Illustrated Online. He makes more money than I do at conventions, but his follower count, I think he only has like 5,000 followers on Instagram. But you would never know that he's making like basically 30K a year, or not 30K, 300K a year, because his following count is so low. So never let anyone dictate how well someone's doing by their following count on social media. The only thing that social media does have is it definitely has an outreach. So when you have a Kickstarter or a sale, it can definitely really help there. And then getting into conventions or being seen as like more legit, sadly, it helps in that sense. But I have never, especially, or I shouldn't say I've never. The last 2 years, I have met a lot of artists that I think their art is phenomenal, but they have like a fraction of the following that most artists have. And it doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm learning so much how sometimes really fascinating, visually like intriguing artists don't care about their social media number following. And in ways, it's like finding a hidden gem on social media. You're like, oh, you're like really good, but you're like this best kept secret. So just know, I think the number game is a silly one. And it's easy for me to say it because I have a following count. And I hate when larger artists are like, oh, it doesn't really matter, because I have seen the benefits of having a larger following. And it has led to having an easier time with either making money or backing projects that I want to do. But I've also had a lot of friends that I've even lived with that have seen the opposite effect, where not having a following can just be heartbreaking. And especially seeing other people climb the ladder of success, if you want to, you know what, I don't even want to call it that. That's so gross. Just climb the number game, if you want. I'll call it that instead. And they feel like left behind. And I never want someone to feel like they're being left behind, because a lot of artists, some of my friends are like 10 years into the game and they're saying the same thing you are, where it's like, I feel like people see my number and they're letting that dictate how far I am into my drawing career, my art career. I do feel for you that that is the assumption people make, and I'm sorry that you have to go through that. That sucks. And I think it's even worse when people just assume you're a new artist when you've been at it for so long, because it probably does feel like all those years. Then what do they account for? Because I don't have a number that's associated with it. I feel you on that one. That one art guy says, do you ever have issues creating original content? I would love world building and want to make my own universe through art, but it's so hard drawing original characters. I don't think so. I think if you really pull from your own experiences, it's really easy. Like, imagine if you had to make an original character that's based off of your mom or your father. I think it would be really easy to take some of their personality traits and then inherently create this character that is maybe more like embellished, we'll say, or more flamboyant for some people. Um, but I know when I'm creating my own characters, a lot of them deals with like different aspects and facets of my own personality. And even with my swordplay characters that I promise eventually I'll write the full book. Each of them actually, I'm trying to have each of them represent a different asset of my personality, whether it's confidence, insecurity, uh, bitterness. Like each character, just imagine creating a fully realized human with that as your starting point, and then add personality traits, and then literally simple things can really add a lot to a character. Like, what's their favorite food? What would be their favorite thing to do if they had a free afternoon? I think as soon as you start asking yourselves questions about these characters, all of a sudden, who they are becomes more clear, and then what they're wearing becomes even more obvious. Like for me, I I have a character who's more tomboy. I call her Red. Um, so because she grew up with three brothers, and I have this whole fleshed out backstory of who she is, what her desires are, and where she's going, I she feels the need to appear tough because she's like this small, fighter chick, but she wants to feel more intimidating or more threatening than maybe she is. So her red hair, I have the shaved sides, and it's in a mohawk or in a pulled back ponytail mohawk. And I think a lot of that is trying to express to the world around her that like I'm a tough chick. And the way that she dresses is very it doesn't show her body in like a flattering atypical or typical way that would be like sexualizing her chest area or her hips, and it's very boxy, and it's trying to showcase that she is not the most feminine in the way that she is outputting herself. And then lastly, the weapon that she, well, you know what? I could go on about this, but that would be more rambling. But I think the more that you get to know your character and their personality, it becomes very easy to then know what they would wear, what they would react, or how they would react, and how they interact with other characters in your world. Rueden Wonderland says, "What are your plans for Halloween?" I am very excited. Josh and I are going in drag for the first time for this year's Halloween party that we throw. Uh, and I'm very, very excited. A little nervous because I have to work on this costume and it has to be done before next Saturday because that's when our party is, and I want to make sure that we have enough time. Uh, but I'm very excited about it. Lauren says, Devin is amazing. She is so intelligent and has so much knowledge and insight about the algorithms and methods about posting and how to post. I really love her. And not only that she knows all of that, but she shares it with people and she's so open about it. And for a lot of people, it would be like this trade secret of like, oh, just don't tell a lot of people about this. For her, she's like, tell everyone. Tell literally everyone you can because I want everyone to succeed in this career. And her attitude is just one that we need in our community. And I'm glad that she's kind of being a pillar of leadership within this community because her generosity and her willing to help other people succeed, I feel like, I don't want to say it's rare in the art community. I don't think that's true. But I definitely think it's very hard sometimes to see someone that's doing well and not be bitter or like resentful because of that. And I've definitely experienced that in my college years where I thought if someone was doing better than me, it meant that they were better artists. So like if they were, getting more of a response on whatever social media, it was DeviantArt at the time and like Facebook business pages. But I remember, yeah, it would kind of dictate how people felt about you. Which I hated, but I fell into that trap for sure. And I think my way of reasoning it would be to, in my head, point out what they're doing wrong in their art to make my own ego feel better. But now that I'm older, I'm realizing it was just such an insecurity. And for Devin, I think, what is she, 25, 26? At her age, to be so open and I don't know. I just admire her so much. And I'm really excited we talked about she wants to come visit next year, and I love her. Go follow her. I guess that's the real story of it. Just go follow her. She's great. Let's see here. Digital says the only thing I took away from all of that is I'm deleting Twitter. No, I'm telling you guys, Twitter has been the only social media platform for a lot of my friends nowadays that gives us any type of hope as static artists. There literally is no other platform besides maybe Facebook, which I cringe even saying that. And a lot of you are like, okay, boomer. But I'm telling you, my last Kickstarter, I was amazed at how many people came from Facebook to support my last Kickstarter. And I'll definitely share the stats on my book when it comes out next April, May, because I'll literally share with you guys like what social media platforms actually targeted people and actually got people to click the link to go to the Kickstarter. I'm going to try this thing where I don't use ads this year. So like I don't expect my Kickstarter to do as well as my previous ones. But I think just in like the true experiment nature of it all, I just want to see how is natural marketing, how does it perform? And what platform did it perform the best on? So we'll see. Elena says, I used to have friends who would share the struggle with, then a post or few posts went viral, mine didn't, and it wasn't the same struggle anymore. Ugh, I feel so bad for you because one of my friends is in that position, and I'm trying to like share and help them with being seen. It's just nothing is clicking with the like going viral or being shared. And it really weighs on them. So if it weighs on you the same way it weighs on them, I am so sorry. And I'm sorry that this is the current landscape that us as artists have to navigate just to be seen. Let's see here. Felix says, with my current living situation, I only need to make $8K a year in order to not dig into my savings. As long as I can make that much in 2 years' time, I'm totally content. Numbers on social media don't mean anything as long as you can continue doing what you want to do. Exactly. Barbara says, awesome. What are you going to do original drag? Are you going to do original drag or drag inspired by other queens or pop culture? So I won't share too much, but basically our party theme this year is 80s. And we're kind of letting people interpret that however they want. But for me, I'm doing my favorite horror icon is Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'm doing him mixed with Elvira, mixed with my own little personal flair. And it's going to be like this trifecta drag outfit. We'll see if I can pull it off, but I'm pretty excited about it. That one art guy says, something that I find helps is actively searching for what inspires me. For instance, I realize that the style of painting I'm drawn to is Baroque thanks to an artist named Roberto Ferri. Ferri? How do you pronounce that? Yes. I think once you kind of realize what inspires you, basically finding your own style is like Frankensteining all of the influences that you have in your life to then create something new. So for me, a lot of my earlier work was definitely more inspired by Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Twisted Metal, a lot of the video games that I grew up playing. But now that I'm older, I'm finding that I'm more drawn to artists of yesteryear. So like Franklin Booth and Harry Clark, Muka, Rockwell, and like how they capture nuances I find really interesting. So I'm not trying to like steal their style. I'm trying to see how they saw the world and how they chose to capture that, and then take little tidbits of that information and then apply it to my own work. Because I think when you just copy an artist over and over, it's good when you're like learning and starting out. But after a while, you really should pick up on the nuances of what you enjoy drawing and try doing more of that. Because if you're only just recreating what someone else has done, how much of an artist are you really being versus just a photocopy machine? But like I said, I definitely was a photocopy machine when I was in high school and for a little bit of college. It took a little bit for me to understand finding your own style meant you can break away from what is realistic. At least in my journey, a lot of it was like realism training. So once I realized I don't have to draw an eye the way that an eye actually looks in reality. I can do like a double iris ring like in Kingdom Hearts, but then I can shade the nose how a lot of Tumblr artists used to shade their nose. And like things just started, I was like pulling from all these different influences, and I realized how you draw and how you create is your style, but you have to be bold enough to make those decisions, to stray away from your references or from your original sources. Okay, I'll probably take like a few more comments and questions because we're already in the 10-minute segment. These pumpkins, I promise they're going to look way better when I finish. I think I've been talking so much I haven't been paying attention. They'll probably have a little bit of the depth up here. Because usually when I do a drawing, I do my, this is a 3H, but normally I work with a 3H pencil. And I'll kind of do a value pass like I've done here so far. And then I'll go back and start detailing each one. That's why these still look a little undeveloped, we'll say. But this is normally how I start, so I don't want to pretend like this isn't my process. And then sometimes, like, if I'm going on this drawing, I'll probably be like, you know what? It'd probably be faster if I laid out my value first, kind of like this. And then draw the little grooves after. Because if every pumpkin is going to be this gradient from dark to light, I can then detail on top of that. So yeah, this is definitely a process. I mean, especially having to draw 36, technically 37 pumpkins with the character. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nights over the next few days where I'm just watching horror movies in the background and just drawing pumpkins. Oh, hello, Kitty. So you're heading over soon. Well, we will see you at the front door then very shortly. Oh, let's see here. Ruin Wonderland says, "Gosh, I want to go to a Halloween party." I feel so bad for when I was in Europe. I was told by so many people that they don't really like celebrate Halloween like they do in the States. Because even when Key and I went to Iceland, it just happened to be late October, and literally Halloween happened while we were there. We went to a Iceland club, and we were like the only. So we thought this would be like a costume party. So Key and I come dressed up. I'm the clown from. Or no, I wasn't the clown. I was Georgie from It. So I had my yellow rain jacket. I had my red balloon, and Key was a traffic light. And literally, we go into this Iceland club. Like no one's dressed up. There might be like 3 other people in the entire club dressed up, and then no one's dancing. I was like, this is so opposite of American culture when it comes to Halloween. So Key and I were like, okay, well, if no one's dancing, we might as well make the dance party ourselves. So here you have these 2 idiots in the center of like a dance hall that no one's dancing in. I'm with my yellow jacket and my balloon is just flopping everywhere. Key looks crazy because she painted her face to look like a traffic light, but it was so dark that she just looked like this zombie mess. And that was our Halloween in Iceland. But when I went to Belgium with Tijl and London, I talked to you guys for a while about it, and it just sounds like you guys don't celebrate it as much like we do in the States. I don't know if that's changing now that I feel like Halloween's becoming more popular with every year. So I guess you'll have to let me know in the comments if whatever country you're from, do you feel like your country celebrates Halloween heavily, or is it like an afterthought? Do you guys even do trick-or-treating? I'm kind of curious because I just assumed that a lot of countries celebrated Halloween and the whole trick-or-treating thing, but to find out that not a lot of countries do was surprising. It was one of those like you assume because that's our perspective on something that everyone does it similarly, and then to find out like no one does it really like that was shocking. Let's see here. Yes, Gaborovna says, I'm listening to this and also doing a sketch and recording it for TikTok because content. Yes, I definitely feel that. Actually, I should be doing another video. Thank you for the reminder. Literally crazy that has become so ingrained in how I work now. Whew. Can someone share a link for Devin? Yes, I will do that really quick. So this is Devin's Instagram. There you go. Let's see. And don't forget to put @vonnart for your comment or question. That one art guy says, half my family is directly from Greece and they don't celebrate it at all. They actually find it really goofy. Wow. Oh, jumped here. Dami says, can confirm, I'm French and it's more like a kid's teenager party. As adults, we more like help kids to have a nice time, or eventually some people keep having fun. Yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like when I was in Europe, just in general. That was kind of the vibe. Like it's more for kids, like tricks. Dami said, or wait, Gabarovna says, we do Day of the Dead, not Halloween, and it's a quiet gathering at the cemeteries and putting up candles for the dead. It's very respectful, not a party. That is, yes. So I'm assuming, are you from somewhere in South America, Mexico? Because I know one of my roommates, he's Mexican and he celebrated Day of the Dead over Halloween. Well, he did both. But it's weird because even this weekend, we're going to a witch's ball to celebrate. I know I pronounce it wrong every time, but I call it Samhain, but I know it's Samhain. It's a really weird pronunciation. And it's basically this giant circle of people dancing in a circle of with a giant ring of fire in the center, and like you're celebrating and giving thanks to the end of the final harvest of the year while being grateful for the ancestors that have gotten us to this point. So it's like a different way of celebrating the end of October. Definitely different than Halloween. A similar vibe, maybe, of like acknowledging the dead, but Halloween's more of like the silly, playful, campy way of doing it. And then I think Day of the Dead and the Samhain way of doing it is more of a respectful, kind of a inner, what's that called? Reflection on those who came before us, which I find that really cool too. Dami says, I precisely live in Brittany, and here it's more like a pagan celebration called, so why do I always want to call it Samhain? I know it's not Samhain. Rueden Wonderland says, I'm from Finland and we have some celebrating of Halloween, but definitely not trick-or-treating. I'd love to see what it is like in the States. It is pretty awesome if you know where to go. I know we throw a really big Halloween party every year, and it's always themed, and literally everyone comes dressed up. You're not allowed in the party if you're not dressed up. And lately, everyone's been doing really good at actually keeping to the theme as well. So this year, it's however you interpret 80s. So it could be like a video game, it could be film, it could just be the culture at the time. So I'm very excited to see what people come up with. And I think I don't know why people in the States, do we just love dressing up over here? And maybe it's we love partying and then dressing up is like the add-on. Maybe that's the difference. Because maybe in other cultures, because I've seen like folklore dances and things where people still dress up and it's very respectful and it's this like cultural passed down reverence that's really cool. But maybe you guys don't party like Americans, and probably for the better because Americans can get a little sloppy, to be honest. But I think we took Halloween as like we grew up with trick or treating, so like there's such good memories and association. But now that we're adults, like we still want those good memories and association. So we just turn it from trick or treating into like partying. Let's see here. Barbara says American style Halloween is getting more popular. Looking at the products in the shops, but it's not a traditional holiday in the Netherlands. We do have an All Souls Day on November 2nd. Oh, that's very interesting. All right. Well, I think we're coming to a close on the stream here. Thank you for helping me keep company during the first half of drawing some jack-o'-lanterns. Like I said, I'm going to have to draw a lot more. So actually, I have fun with this kind of stuff though. Like pumpkins is really fun for me to draw. So I'm sure we'll all be working on my horror or watching my horror movies while working on this. I'm sure I'm going to be having a blast. So if you want to see more progress on this, I will post more on my Instagram stories. And I will post the final before next Monday. And that's Halloween. So I got to finish it before then. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming to this live stream. I know it's been a hot second since I've been active on here because of all the traveling we've been doing. But thank you so much for coming. And I will be live again next Wednesday, same time. And hope to see you there. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye, 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 bye. Bye, 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 bye.